Wow. Okay. Stream crashed. Weird. Chad, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was gonna say you disappeared for a second. I was like, whoops.
Yeah, well, play it by ear, as they say. All right, Chad, welcome to the show. How are you, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. That's a cool theme song, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah. One of my audience guys, Chris Gard, did that for me. It's pretty awesome. So, all right, cool. Well, Chad, I've been listening to you and Aaron Clary for a very long time, and I wanted to get you on here to talk about your area of expertise, personal finance and dude bros, and the accounting business as a whole. Because I got to tell you, man, I'm in the trades right now, and I'm getting sick and tired of working for these old boomers and everything that have their heads up their asses.
Yes,
And
they do.
every time I listen to you and Cappy about working for yourself and all that good stuff, it's just so attractive to me. So I definitely wanted to have you on here because if I'm thinking about it, I'm sure so many other guys are too. So why don't you just give yourself a quick little intro and a background to my audience so they know who you are and where they could find your stuff.
Sure. As Hawk here said, I am I'm a CPA. I'm a certified public accountant, and I have my own tax practice. And what happened was I originally started out working for the federal government in tax. I'd worked for the IRS, the U.S. Tax Court, DOJ, criminal tax. So I was kind of working for the bad guys, as I say, because the government is always the bad guy. Spoiler alert. And then I decided to go ahead and go back to school. I got my MBA, and it was because I wanted to make sure I could complete my CPA requirements, get those courses out of the way. And then I thought it would teach me something about running my own business. But if you guys think that you can just take courses to learn how to run your own business, that's not how it works. You have to actually just start a business and then run it. So long and short of it, I just had a series of really bad bosses, mostly boomers, both with the federal government before grad school. And then after grad school, for a couple of years, I did work, in public accounting in corporate America. And I just got to the point where it was like bad boss after bad boss and incompetence and waste and a lack of meritocracy. And so about 9 years ago, I just started my own firm, my own CPA firm. And That is what I've been doing since then. And I've had my own YouTube channel really just for about the last 6 months or so. You can find it at Chad Elkins CPA. And yeah, I just Red Hawk here has been on the show for a bit, and he follows Clary, and I've been on Aaron Clary, and I've been on his channel for a bit, which I'm sure some of your listeners are familiar with. And so he asked me to come on, and I thought I'd come hang out for a bit. So there you go.
Yeah, cool, cool. I mean, you provide excellent value, not only on Clary's channel, but yours as well. And
Well, thanks.
as I said, I'm getting more and more interested by the day of, pursuing this, CPA route and everything like that. So let's start at the top here, Chad. What is the benefits of, working for yourself? Could you ever imagine at this point you going back to working for the man?
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, I'm spoiled for life. That's the thing. It's kind of like, let me ask you this. This might be a weird analogy. Have you ever taken a flight where you sat in first class before?
I have, yeah.
You have? I always found it a little bit hard. Like once you've had that experience, you've taken like a long flight where you've been in first class where you could really spread out and get comfortable. I always felt like it was tough to, go back and sit in regular economy or, coach. And of course, we have to do that most of the time. We're not rich. We can't just, sit in first class every flight. But in a way, that's what having your own business is like. I mean, sure, it's a lot of hard work and there's headaches, there's a lot you have to be in charge of because it's just you. But once you do it and have some success at it, like it's just there's no way you can go back. It's too hard. Like you feel too boxed in after something like that. So I'm spoiled for life. I can never go back and like have another W-2 like work for a company at this point. There's just too many benefits to running your own business.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. What would you say to the guys that are let's say, we're kind of coming into a economic recession here. They're
Oh
really
yeah.
really nervous. They're really really nervous about paying the bills and everything. Rapid inflation, housing is going through the roof. All this stuff. Do you think it's a smart time to be starting your own business and getting into your space despite the economic conditions?
Well, I would say that there is never a bad time to start your own business, but I want to qualify this. And you've probably heard Clary talk about the two-pronged approach and everything, how you don't necessarily just dive right in. I think what people need to always have a mindset for and, start thinking about is whether you have if you do have a full-time job, start thinking about having a little bit of a side business. I mean, nobody can tell somebody what side business they should have. I mean, we can make suggestions, but that's what I did was I was working for these terrible bosses at these terrible jobs, but I started on the side my little practice here. So in my opinion, no matter what economic conditions are or you think they're going to be, there is never a bad time to at least look into and maybe plant the seeds to starting a little side business. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I adopted, the two-pronged approach myself here by working my day job, which is the trades, and then, my job on the side is the YouTube stuff and the stuff I do
Exactly.
for the Old Glory Club, which you guys should all go and subscribe to. We're doing some great stuff over there. So yeah, I mean, I totally am in favor of the two-pronged approach. I think it's the best way to do it for sure. And it's like a way for you to dip your toes into the water, so to speak, before taking that full blown plunge of working for yourself, which definitely is an end state goal for me for sure.
And you probably have given up some of your free time and weekends, right? Like it's not you do have to make some sacrifices to do it, and it can be a little bit tiring at times, but I just the payoff is just unimaginable once you're able to make it work. So I'm a big fan of it, and I think you are too, from what it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I worked a pretty short job today. I got off of work at around like 1:30 today, but ever since I got home, I've done literally nothing but work. I was typing up, an outline for an article I'm going to write here pretty soon, and then I was making YouTube thumbnails. I was, squaring away this stream for this evening's, and then I had to cook dinner in between. So I've just been nonstop working all day today. So, but I mean, time flies, man. Especially I find myself, it's not a chore, to do this kind of work for me, which is why I enjoy it so much. I enjoy writing, I enjoy the YouTube stuff, I enjoy talking with people in the chat. So, I guess, I mean, they do say like when you work for yourself, it's not really like real work. And I think I definitely agree with that to some extent.
And you're passionate about it. I can tell. Like you look forward to it. It's not like slogging into, your office at, Umbrella Corporation or something, like when it's your baby, I mean, it doesn't feel like work because it's all about your investment in it. And I just think I can never really do that again for somebody else. And you're going to reach a point. I think maybe you're going to reach that point too at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal here. So let's talk about, the meme of, the dude bros. I know that Claire loves to shit on these guys, and of course you do too, and everything like that. So, Chad, what is the problem with, dude broing it up? Like, oh, I'm gonna take the shortcut, easy way out of, oh, I'm just gonna go invest in business or, whatever.
Crypto.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. I mean, uh, of course, there are some guys that make it big in this kind of stuff, but it's definitely not the attitude you want to have for long-term success. What do you think?
So this was a slight problem. I went and got my MBA, grad school, like I was saying. And what do you think? You think there's some dude bros when it comes to an MBA program?
Oh, I'm sure they're everywhere. I can only imagine the guys that were in your class and everything.
Yeah. Now my class wasn't terrible, hard workers and everything, but there were some dude bros amongst them. And even, we graduated 11 years ago, and even today, it's this, a few of the same cast of characters here. The problem with dude bros is kind of like what you were saying there. It's all about kind of this get rich quick thing. Like they think they have the inside track to everything. And there's nothing wrong with taking a calculated risk or, coming up with a really good idea that could really take off. And, the dude bros can sometimes do that, if they do have a talent for it. But a lot of the dude bros that I'm familiar with, at least in my personal life, it always seemed like they were looking for some kind of shortcut, whether it's like, this. Do you remember, were you, now this was almost a year, or yeah, this was over a year and a half ago. Do you remember that whole, diamond hands, the meme stocks, the Wall Street bets,
Oh
the
yeah,
whole, yeah,
yeah.
the AMC, and what was the other one? GameStop.
GameStop, yeah.
I think Dogecoin ended up there, just like all that stuff. Only a few people actually, made good money on that. And remember, I do taxes, so I see what people do, in a given year, and this includes investments and things like this, including crypto. A lot of dude bros, and I did see it. A lot of dude bros lost some major money, like thinking they could latch on to that. So my problem with dude bros is that there's nothing wrong with enthusiasm, and there's nothing wrong with thinking outside the box, and there's nothing wrong with not wanting to have a conventional job and everything. There's no way you can get around hard work at the end of the day. I mean, some people have to work harder than others, but that's my thing with dude bro culture. Like, I mean, is that what were you thinking in terms of dude bros? Like, what's your thoughts?
You know, my mind goes back to some guys I either met in my own college days or in high school who, the very first second they get some money in their pocket, they immediately buy a sports car or something like this, or a really big house. I've got a buddy of mine who I'm still really good friends with to this day, but he is just your typical dude bro, man. He does this thing where he like trades out one sports car every single year, and he got like this really nice big house and everything, and he got the hot wife and everything. I mean, and good luck, to him and everything like that. But it's funny when he sold this Dodge Challenger earlier this year when the economics started to turn south, and I'm not really seeing him party it up on the golf courses anymore. So
Oh,
not
geez.
the smartest idea, but these guys just they think that like the good times are always going to last forever is what it seems to me looking at this from the inside. And then you were mentioning the crypto stuff. Well, there's a bunch of guys cursing the sky and bitching out on Twitter right now about this whole like FTX scandal. I don't know if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
yeah, yeah, and all this nonsense. So yeah, I mean, fast money, man, it comes with slow problems if you're not on top of it.
And you hit something I forgot to mention. A lot of the dude bros that I deal with as clients or whatever, even I've got some friends where they just tell me about this. A lot of them have extreme spending problems. Like, they think keeping a budget or trying to live within their means is, I don't really like this word, but it's like beta somehow. I mean, that's, being financially responsible is beta. We can't have that. So, that's another thing where I've had to have some hard conversations with some dude bro, not just clients, but friends, where I had to be like, dude, you're an idiot. I was about to curse there. Can we curse on this show? Or
Yeah, go for it.
they're just fucking morons. Like, I'm just like, dude, like, this is a spreadsheet. I know you know how to use a spreadsheet because we were in the MBA program together where that's all we dealt with. So don't be scared to use Excel and, punch in numbers for a budget there. But then they do things like buy $40,000 cars and, go into debt for them.
Yeah,
That's dude, bro.
it honestly just blows me away that some guys are making six figures and live paycheck to paycheck, man. They're like, how could you not have your finances under control at that point?
They get sucked into the lifestyle. And by the way, I'm talking about people who don't have their own business, because when you have your own business, you still shouldn't do that. But a lot of things that you spend money on can be tax deductions, and they're oftentimes tied to the business. So there's at least some leeway there. I'm talking about guys who, yeah, they make six figures, but they can't have business deductions, and so they just spend too damn much. What happens is a lot of them live in a big city like the one I live in, and maybe the one you live in, and the various big cities in the country, East Coast, West Coast, and they got caught up in the lifestyle, of going out, ordering out, expensive restaurants, expensive homes, condos, cars, like all that stuff, trips, clothes. So I think that's where the spending problems come. They just have this image that they're so proud of themselves for, and they want to live up to it.
Yeah, well, it'd be one thing if they had like all these expensive cars and they went to the golf courses and they had the fancy clothes and everything like that. It'd be one thing if they weren't paying for those with debt. But so often that's what these guys are doing. They're taking on the car loans or the massive mortgages or the boat loans or whatever the hell else they're doing. And it just sets you up for some severe, severe problems when the bad times come, like we're seeing right now, and that are likely going to become more and more frequent as the government has their heads up their ass and continues to print more and more money.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, that was a real sobering part of when I really started getting into the weeds of my own practice, looking into what people's spending was it's like you said, you see these people and they're driving around these amazing cars and they're dressed in these Armani suits and they just that you wish you had their lives. And then you look at what they're spending and how much debt they're in. You look at their credit card bills, and they're usually married to somebody else who has no ability to like curtail their spending. And you do not want to trade places with them because I mean, when the shit hits the fan, and I think it's about to, bankruptcies are gonna really multiply here.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. So, I mean, I think what we're touching on here is, just the cardinal rule of personal finances, and that just is, spend less than you make, which should be, basic, knowledge to anybody, who goes through a high school education. But, this is America again, so we're expecting too much here. But what do you think are some other, really, really big, financial tools that, guys should have, when they're looking to either set up a business or just be, independent in this day and age? What are some of the other tips you think?
Well, I can tell you what I did. I mean, I sort of set this rule for myself, and you don't have to do this, but this was my thing. This was important for my own like psyche here. I could have started my business. I mean, I was always sort of doing it on the side, but I could have gone like full throttle into it right after I finished my program and, finished my CPA. But the thing was, my rule for myself was I want to make sure I pay off all of my debts before I do this because I did have some student loan debt, from grad school. So, that was one thing. Like, if you do want to start your own business and you're really serious about it, get your own personal finances in order. I'm stating the obvious here, but eliminate your debt. And I don't mean if you have a mortgage, that's fine. That's totally cool. That's housing. I just mean like settle all your credit card debts. If you've got student loan debt, pay as much off as you can, minimize it. Or I guess you could wait for Biden to just wipe it all away. Although I think that got challenged.
Yeah, I mean, until the next election cycle when they'll do it again or something.
Exactly, yeah. So that was my thing. I wanted to eliminate debt. Another thing was, and I know for those who are Cappy fans, Clary, you know how he always preaches minimalism?
Yep.
I know that that gets a bad rap because it makes people sound cheap, but that's not what that necessarily means. He's just, and this is my interpretation of it at least. It just means don't like buy things unnecessarily, Like, do you really need most people need a car. I happen to not need one because where I live, but like most people need a car, to live. And does that mean you have to buy a brand new freaking car that costs $50,000 a year? No, you can buy a used car, you can buy, a beater. I mean, I'm not making fun of him. I'm just saying this is what Clary does. He kind of buys beater cars because what does he need to like have this really expensive car for? Like, who's he trying to impress? It doesn't mean anything. So I
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
to me, minimalism is a good kind of philosophy, even though it makes some people think it sounds cheap. I don't believe that at all. So that's another piece of advice I have.
Yeah, minimalism really gets a bad rap, and like the meme is that, you're scrounging around in cans looking to recycle things to,
That's not
save a
what it
dime.
is.
And no,
Yeah.
it's not at all. It's just, getting a hold of your spending and not, buying frivolous things. I mean, like how often do you need to spend, like $1,000 on clothes? That just seems so absurd to me. Like I see, the girls I date or like other people that I know that, spend exuberant amounts of money on clothes every single year, and they have full,
Ridiculous.
yeah, they got
Yeah.
full closets full of shit, and it's just so absurd to me. Like I always get gifted clothes around like Christmas time and stuff, and I'm just like, what the hell? I already got, like 10 pairs of jeans that I wear. I don't need, a bunch more. This is so absurd.
Exactly, and, like, don't get me wrong, I like to look nice, on when appropriate. I've got a couple of really nice suits, but I didn't spend thousands of dollars on them. I just found a couple of nice suits, found some good deals on them. You went to a tailor, got them, sized for me properly, and when the occasion comes, I put them on and I look nice. And, yeah, I think shopping gets a little bit out of hand for a lot of people. Um, and, well, let me ask you this. Do you Here's another thing I was gonna mention, and again, I'm not saying you guys can't go out and have fun and, go out to eat and everything, but do you usually go out for dinner? Do you cook at home? Do you order in? Do you do, like, Uber Eats and DoorDash? Like, how do you typically handle things like that?
I mean, I usually try to, cook as much as possible, just because it cuts down on costs so much. I'm a really big fan of, crock pots. I just literally stick meat in there, like when I go off to
Yeah,
work in the morning and then I come back and it's already like pretty much done for me. So I do a lot of like, pot roasts and chili and stuff like that just because it's so cheap to do. And also, guys on the channel will know this, but I'm a really big hunter. So it's super easy for me to, get meat every single year come the fall.
nice.
I get a bunch of venison and,
Venison,
you
I
know,
love venison.
yeah, and
Oh,
it's a $20 deer tag and, that's, 80 pounds of meat and, you go through what, like 1 pound of meat a day. So it
yeah,
lasts me like a couple months, a year just by shooting one deer, and I'm going pheasant hunting with some buddies in a couple weeks here. So that'll be good food as well. So, I mean, we're not saying that you got to be scrounging through the garbage or anything, or you got
right,
to give
yeah,
up hobbies and stuff like that. I mean, hunting's an expensive hobby, but I enjoy it so much, and
and
I
it's
and I get
productive,
stuff.
and it's
Yeah, and I
productive
get
that
stuff out
way.
of it. So we're not saying like everyone needs to be like little trolls and curmudgeons, begging for handouts and shit like that. No, it's just taking a cold hard logical view of what you're going to spend money on, what you're going to save, and what you really need. I mean, do you really need to spend $120 on, a sports jersey or a pair of Air Jordans or something ridiculous like that? You really don't.
No. And it's like and one of the reasons I brought up eating out was because that is what I see for my clients who struggle with their spending. Like, these people order, like, every night from Uber Eats, DoorDash, all that stuff, and it's like, "Why?" I get that we all get busy, but it really doesn't take that long to cook a little something up. Like you said, put it in a crock pot, and it's also a lot healthier, wouldn't you say, compared to what you're gonna get in any type of restaurant.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what is it now? It's like 70% of Americans are overweight or
Overweight, yeah.
yeah, it's fucking absurd, man.
And another thing is that, I mean, do you really think of the it's not just the cost, but people say, "Well, I just don't have time to go grocery shopping." Everything like Instacart, and what are some of the other ones, that deliver, I've Amazon, you
Yeah, they
can
pretty much
use
all do that now. Yeah.
so you don't even have to take the time if you don't want to. Just put in that, and I think it's okay to order groceries because that doesn't cost extra, and you use those groceries to cook things. I'm just saying I don't think people should, like, order out every night, from restaurants.
Yeah, people are just using excuses, man. It's just how it goes. But I mean, it's like we say all the time, it's just easier than ever to separate yourself from like the sludge of like the everyday person these days because
Yeah.
basically everybody is doing nothing. So if you're just doing something, that already puts you way ahead of the rest of the pack. So, whether it is whatever we're talking about, like being in shape or, spending less than you make, all this kinds of stuff, or, just being charismatic, with women and stuff like that. I mean, it's just so much easier to, be one of these, successful guys these days. I can't stand these, black pill doomers who, think the end is nigh.
Yeah, I admit, and I used to fall victim to that a little bit a long time ago, when I'd be in this corner of the internet and I'd be like, get a little bit nihilistic with this. But then it's like, you know what? All it takes is a little bit. I know this sounds a little bit cliche, but all it takes is a little bit of hard work and finding something that you enjoy and then making smart decisions with your health and your finances. And of course, dating, you want to make sure you date the right people. What exactly is so bad about life at that point?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's I mean, I definitely felt this for sure when I was in my younger 20s. I mean, I'm 28 now, but in my younger days, I definitely felt this, like I was like 22 and wasn't really, where I wanted to be and where some of my peers were at and everything. And I just thought like everything was doomed, but really it's like the 20s is just the foundation for the rest of your life. Dude, I'm so excited to reach my like mid 30s. It's going to be an absolute blast, man. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm just putting in all the hard work now, and eventually when you get there it's just going to be much more fun, because I was just fed this lie from a very young age that like, oh, if you're not 22 and you weren't married like our boomer parents were, and you don't have kids by the time you're 25, your life is completely over, and if you don't have your business in order and stuff, you're a complete failure. And it's just such a crack of bullshit, man.
Well, the stuff we're talking about living within your means and making smart health decisions and, things that you can do to improve your life. Like they don't teach it in schools. And you have to think that that's on purpose. I mean, they kind of want to just make you a cog that gets plugged into the cubicle life and, be there for 40 years and, maybe get a gold watch when you're forced out into retirement, maybe not, and then collect Social Security, which probably won't even be funded by then. But
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
it's just good you found a way to not be stuck in that mindset.
oh, for sure. I mean, and it was tough to get out of. I mean, like, before I got into the trades, I did like all kinds of jobs. I worked all the way through college, and then I ended up in the mortgage industry, and it was an absolute hellhole that I hated. I mean, and then of course, the housing market went to hell, so the mortgage industry obviously, went to hell too. So I got out of that, and I just decided, hey, let me get in the trades. I did. I got into that a couple of years ago, and I do absolutely enjoy it, but I just can't stand the incompetence of, a bunch of boomer bosses. But, it's funny. I marched into my boss's office and I doubled my pay last week because nobody wants to work. There's now only 3 guys in our shop, and we had a crew of 20 at the start of COVID. So
Jeez.
I just completely doubled it, which was pretty nice. But I still would like to get out of there because they're still just running things so incompetently, which is why I'm, more and more eager to get into your line of work. Number one, for the remote work, which seems so appealing to me. So, why don't you talk about that a little bit, like the remote work?
Well, believe it or not, a lot of this ended up happening because of COVID. I mean, it was already trending that way. I did have an office, but I've got a bit of a younger client base. They're usually 40 and below. I mean, I've got some older ones too, of course, but I'd say about 90% of my client base is below the age of 40, which is good. I like that. So it was already becoming people just flat out, sending me their stuff. They're like, "Oh, we don't need to meet," which was of course fine with me. I can just do it from my house, my apartment. And so that was pre-COVID. But then once COVID hit and we, of course, had to shelter in place and all that stuff, at that point, I became fully remote. And so did pretty much everybody else within my profession. Because think about it, what I do requires no physical interaction. Not when you can just Zoom, not when you can do what you and I are doing right now. I mean, people would just upload their documents or send them to me. I do it. We hop on a Zoom, we talk about it, they pay me. End of discussion. So I ended up getting rid of my office. I guess back in July, I just totally moved out. And yeah, this is a good profession to be in if you want to work remotely and be location independent. With trades, I guess by definition, you do kind of have to be there on location, right? But I feel like you're always going to get paid a premium for that, right? Especially with there not being many tradesmen anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, nobody wants to do this kind of work, and it's just laughable to me when I walk into like my boss's office, and just this year I finally got 3 days paid vacation, which I'm like, no, you're gonna,
Really?
yeah, it's like, no, you're gonna up that some more. I've been working here for a couple of years now. There's nobody else that wants to work, so you're gonna up that. I mean, you know. for all that we're saying about, like the jobs and everything, I will say this. I mean, it definitely has become the age of the employee, man, for sure. I mean, so many of these companies are just starving for people to work. And, as I said, I walked into my boomer office and said, hey, this other job is going to offer me almost double this pay. So you're going to give me this and a bonus. And they did. And I was honestly shocked that they did. I didn't think he was going to do it, but he did. So you really can just, slap your big dick on the table and demand to be treated better, which, at least is nice on that front. But yeah, I mean, with this like YouTube stuff and everything, hopefully it takes off a bunch. And I would very much enjoy to become location independent in the future. But yeah, I mean, for now, it's just not on the table, but it's an end state goal. And like I said, I got plenty of time to work this stuff out.
I was gonna tell you, I did not become, location independent like this until I was basically already past 40. So yeah, believe me, you got plenty of time, man. Like you'll get there, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit more about your stock and trade here in the accounting and tax work and such like that. So for guys that are a little nervous about your job and everything, like it's really numbers, it's analytical, it's boring. You're basically worked to death for 4 months out of the year. What can you say to guys like that? Should they be concerned about these things? Should they not be concerned? What do you think?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say, which again, this might sound a little bit cliche, and I'm not trying to discount what I do or the profession or the industry or anything, but I firmly believe this, okay? Anybody can do this. I swear to you, anybody can do what I do. Now, that doesn't mean you can be a complete moron who can't tie your shoes or can't even add 1 plus 1 together. I mean your average individual who has some hard work, organization skills, and focus. That's another thing. Focus. You can do this. So I would just say what you ought to do is learn a little bit about it. Like take a look at what the work entails. This is something I talk about on my stream, especially in recent weeks because I get a lot of younger kids, like younger than you, like dudes that are like 21, 22. Some are even still in college. Some have already graduated, and they're like, "I want to do what you do. Tell me all about it." And I've had a few private Zooms with some of them, and I've just been like, "Well, this is what it's like. This is what you're going to need to go through in order to do it." You've heard me talk about the enrolled agent certification, the EA. You don't have to be a CPA to do the type of work that I do. So I would say learn about it. Talk to people who are in it. Talk to me, shoot me an email. And it may not be for you. It's not for everybody, I'm sure, but it is for a lot of people. And it's not once you know how to do it, you put in the work and you get some practice with it. I mean, it clicks and then you're just gonna soar. And you've probably heard me talk about this too in my streams, but I mean, there is a real shortage. I mean, a huge shortage of people doing what I'm doing right now because what happened was it got a lot more complicated than it had been in the last few years because of some tax reform that the Trump administration brought in. And then of course COVID kind of made things a little bit more complicated too. So a lot of the boomers, it was already kind of an older type industry in terms of age. A lot of the boomers just punched out. They're just like, you know what? We don't want to deal with this anymore. So they just kind of left the industry and retired. Kids in undergrad weren't majoring it as much because it's not quote sexy. Accountants don't get the girls, as they say.
Yeah.
um, but and yeah, studying accounting is a little bit boring. It's not as boring when you're doing it for work, but studying it, learning the basics is boring. I'm not going to lie about that. But I would just say if you want to make a lot of money and it's something after you learn a little bit more about it and it's something that you may enjoy doing and you'd find yourself capable of doing, the world is your oyster, dude. I mean, I know that people would be hesitant to do it because it sounds hard, but with considering the shortage right now and the number of people that need help, and there's really not many big barriers to entry anymore once you learn more about the EA, the enrolled agent certification, in order to do this work. I would say just learn about it, talk to professionals, learn about it, research, because this is something that is a very viable path for people who aren't sure what to do right now and who do want to be location independent.
For sure. So let's talk about. I mean, I know you talk about this a bunch on your streams, which you guys should all go listen to. Chad, provides fantastic value in this space, which is why I wanted to have him on and discuss this more in full. So, talk to us a little bit more about the EA certification from point A to point B. If you're really like hauled ass, like how quickly could you get the certification? And then tell the chat, what is like the hourly pay that you could be charging, for this gig right now? Because when I heard this on your show, I was fucking blown away, man.
Okay. Well, so the EA certification, some very quick background. It's specifically set up by the IRS. So there's officially three types of, we'll just call them we'll say professionals, three types of professionals who are the gold standard for essentially being tax preparers, tax planners, representing people before the IRS, basically doing taxes. The first is a tax attorney. Obviously, that would take a ton of work, an undergrad degree, law school, yada, yada, yada. The second is what I am. I'm a certified public accountant, and that also is a lot of work and expensive because you have to get an undergrad. Now you need a master's because you need to have 150 credit hours to sit for the CPA exam. You have to pass 4 really hard exams that cost a lot, that you have to study for. It takes forever to study for them. The materials themselves to study for them cost a lot. And then there's a 1 to 2 year work experience just to even get signed off to call yourself a CPA. So that's the second, professional that can do this type of work. But the enrolled agent certification, to the IRS's credit, they kind of figured out, look, those first two take a ton of work, commitment, and people are probably not going to want to do that. Not a lot of people. So the enrolled agent certification, you don't even need a degree. You don't even have to have gone to college to be an EA. And what it entails is you take 3 exams administered by the IRS, and I've talked about this in some recent streams with some current EA candidates. And even last night, I had a guy on who is an EA with his own tax practice, so we talked all about that. It was a pretty good show. But you take these 3 exams. They're not super hard. You do have to study for them. You can knock those out within a matter of months, so you can get those out of the way quickly. And then it's just a matter of getting some experience in tax. And so you'll get the certification with the exams. And what I've been telling people, what I think they ought to do, the first thing you can try is sort of networking around the town that you live in and try to find a firm, like either a CPA firm or even just your regular tax prep firm, maybe a mom and pop shop. Remember what I was saying was that there's a shortage of people that are available to help those who need tax preparation assistance these days. I mean, I'm getting hit up every day with prospective clients who are like, I need help. Are you available? And I'm like, sorry, I'm full. So there's a shortage. So if you network with local firms, they may just say, look, we'll bring you on and we'll train you because, we could use the help. And if you'll commit to being with us for a couple of years, you got it. And there you go. You're already getting the experience you need to start your own shop. So that's one way of doing it. Another thing that I'd mentioned to some people about this, because that's not always going to work out. You can only do so much networking and not everybody's going to hire you. But another path is H&R Block. Now, I'm always going to talk shit about H&R Block. They're kind of a natural competitor to me, but they do have a pretty good training program. And so what you can do is sign on with them. And I don't know, I think it's an 8 to 10 week program. You meet like once a week and they teach you all about the basics of how to do a tax return. So it is hands-on training. I don't even think it costs anything. And so after you get the EA certification, and you can actually do these things concurrently, you can go through the H&R training program while you're studying and taking the EA exams. Now that's a little bit ambitious, so you got to have some real, gumption for that. If you've already got a full-time job, that'd be pretty hard to do. But if you don't, and you have some time on your hands, go through the H&R Block training program, because what happens is when you complete that program, you can work with them. They'll bring you on board for tax season. So you are going to get hands-on experience working with the types of tax returns that you need to learn how to do to start your own shop. And they're going to pay you to do it. and they'll teach you how to do it and they'll pay you to do it. So, I that's what I've been sort of telling people in my streams is that this is a very viable path. And you were asking, how quickly can you do this? Everything I just said, like the EA certification and getting that, the H&R Block program and experience, 1 to 2 years. You can do that in 1 to 2 years, maybe even just a year, one busy season, and you could be at a point where you could start your own firm. Now you might have to take that two-prong approach like we talked about where you're still working for somebody else, whether it's H&R Block or another CPA firm, and you're earning money, a salary doing that while you build your own client base. But that is how you can get your foot in the door with all of this stuff. And then before you know it, you're going to be accumulating clients left and right because like I said, you guys, there's a shortage. And then there you have it.
Do you have any concerns about this shortage, being fulfilled anytime soon? I mean, we just heard about the IRS hiring, what was it, like 100,000 new agents or something like that, or whatever the hell the number was. Do you have any concern about, encouraging guys to go down this path and then like 1 year down the road, they're like, oh, Chad told me to get this EA certification and all of a sudden everyone's trying to do this. Is that a valid concern, do you think?
It is completely invalid because when they hire 87,000 additional IRS agents, what do you think they're hiring them for?
To do government make work,
It's actually to go after people who are, filing their taxes. It's like to audit more people. It's basically to bring heavier scrutiny to people who have nobody to help them because there's a shortage of EAs and tax pros to help them fight the government. And so now the government has power. They have more power. They just got hit with a shot of steroids. So now, anybody who becomes a pro at this, whether it's an EA or whatever, you're needed more than ever. They need you. So I remember I read that about how the IRS is getting all this help, all this funding upgraded. It's like, oh, is that going to make my job harder? I mean, it might be a little bit annoying because, maybe there'll be more correspondence that's needed between my clients and the IRS, maybe some mini audits, but that just means that I'm going to be even more demand. Like I'll never run out of work now that the IRS is going to start going after people even more. And neither are any of these people that pursue the EA path. So yeah, I will say it is a completely invalid concern to worry about something like that at this point in time.
Mm, yeah, well, that's good to know for sure. And then, if you're charging like hundreds of dollars an hour, as well. So, I mean, it's obviously very, very lucrative.
My rates just about tripled in the last, we'll call it 2.5 years, just because, and I'm not trying to sound like a dick here, but because I can. And I'm
Mm,
going to do that because it's like, look, I mean, it's a supply and demand thing. I'm not trying to rip people off, but we have so much inflation now. I'm getting affected by it. So that's just how it's going to be. And that's what you guys can do too, to be frank about it, if you enter this profession.
yeah, for sure. So, talk to us about like, the horrors of like the actual job itself. Would you say it's like, mostly busy work? Is it really just like technicality? Does it get easier? Like you learn the individual laws and what you have to do for this certain corporation or this certain filing and stuff like that? Or, would you say it's like you need to be really, really math savvy? Like you need to know like equations and stuff like that? Talk us through that.
Well, you have to be proficient at math. You don't have to be a mathematician. Like this is not, differential equations or calculus or anything like that. Just be decent at math. I think there's an I don't want to say unfair, maybe misplaced stereotype that accountants are so good at math. That's not the case. I mean, we are good at math, but we're not mathematicians. Um, I think probably I'm not going to talk about the ins and outs of running your own firm because that's just like running any business. There's some headaches and you have to work hard and there's a lot of correspondence and things like that. But I will say, in terms of accounting work itself, yes, there is a lot you have to learn because the tax laws are always changing. Okay. Now that's good and it's bad. It's good because, again, you're always going to be needed because, you think your average person who used TurboTax is going to try to learn all these tax laws that change every year? They're not.
Mm,
But Just be open and accept the fact that you're going to have to do some self-study and you're going to have to do some research. And every year, when you're doing this stuff, and this is after you've already become certified and you've already achieved, a a level of expertise, let's say. So just be aware that you are going to have to do continuing type of education. There's all kinds of resources out there for you. You don't even have to pay for them. There's just all kinds of material. So, you know, be aware you have to be up to snuff. You got to keep up to date with all of these changing rules and laws. Otherwise, just kind of roll with the punches. You got to have flexibility if you're dealing with clients. Some of them are going to be a pain in the ass. If you get to a point where I am right now, where it's like you kind of have an abundant mindset at this point, or an abundant situation, I just fire clients that give me too much trouble because they're so easily replaced, because of this shortage of us and all that stuff. Beyond that, you just got to work hard. And like I said, I think anybody can really do this. So, and of course, busy season is hard. It's busy. You got to work hard, but that's why it's called busy season. The rest of the year is not bad at all.
Yeah, yeah. So, talk us through like the horrors of busy season there. Would you say like basically from what like January 15th to April 15th, you're basically a hermit and nobody sees you?
Yeah, actually, the worst were the two COVID years, the two COVID tax seasons, which was 2020 and 2021, because they kept extending it. So it was just like a busy season all the way through July that first year, and then May the second year. But we're back to normal now. Yeah, you're pretty much just working the entire time, because you gotta get it done. We got deadlines. Now, a lot of people extend, but you really don't want to deal with that too much, because then they're going to be bugging you throughout the rest of the year, and they're going to leave it until the last minute anyway, which, it's like if you extend and you have 6 months to do it, you're still going to leave it until October 15th to, get it done. So this time a month ago, I was kind of in a foul mood for all my stragglers. And guess what I did to them, Hawk?
Did you fire their asses?
I did. I'm like, dude, this is not going to work out. Like, you guys, I've warned you every year not to leave it to the last minute like this. I don't want to deal with you last minute extenders anymore. And I'll give Clary credit for pushing me to do it. But yeah. But anyway, the horrors are really just, yeah, it's busy. You have to coach your clients to, like, get you things when you need them. Don't be negligent about what they get you. Don't be negligent. Don't be lazy with their bookkeeping, their document gathering. You have to kind of coach them to be organized, and that can take some time. The majority of my clients have been with me for a long time because they're good clients, and I've coached them how to be organized. They've done what I've said, and they understand the deal with my fees. And when they have issues, I'm happy to help them, but they know how it works right now. To work with me, they know how it works. So you got to coach them up a little bit. There's always going to be problem clients. It's up to you if you want to keep them. If you need them, just kind of do the best you can. Otherwise, like I said, if you don't need them, just drop them. There's an H&R Block around the corner, everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess from your position, you would absolutely take the trade every time of, the 4 months of hell, trading it for the 8 months of freedom, basically. I mean, I see so
Yes.
many guys who try and take like the easy way out of being something like a teacher or something, and they just foam at the mouth of, 3 months off throughout the year. But, you get the 8 months, and it's during the best months of the year anyway. So you're locked indoors, when the snow is falling and stuff like that. Who gives a
Exactly. It's like
shit?
I wouldn't be outside anyway when this is going on. Now, let me at least be a little bit fair here, maybe a little more clarifying. I would say it's more like a 6 months thing. 6 months things are relatively slow and pretty cool. And this is in normal years, non-COVID years. And then it's 6 months, things are pretty crazy because you do have your regular busy season, but it can get pretty crazy in the fall, September through mid-October, because I do a lot of corporate work. And a lot of times there's no reason, like they have to extend, just it's unavoidable sometimes. And so my Septembers are typically pretty busy, as are, even despite me firing a lot of the, deadbeat extenders. It's always going to be a little bit busy up until October 15th. So from about August 15th to October 15th, it does get pretty intense. But otherwise, no, it's a good gig, and I there's projects I do throughout the year. I do consulting. I'm not an asshole consultant like the one we know and love, but I do my professional consulting. Where I charge my hourly rate to get people up and running, and I can fix people's erroneous tax returns because they stupidly tried to do them themselves, failed miserably, and got notices from the IRS. There's gonna be a lot more of those, with 87,000 more
Yeah, for
agents.
sure.
So yeah, there is work available year round. But the good news is, except for busy season when you're working with your own clients, you don't have to take the work. But if it's a random July and I'm not really vacationing and I'm getting a little bored and I'm not doing a whole lot, sure, I'll take on some work. I'll do it. I'll earn some money, and then I'll go watch, American Dad.
Yeah, or just do what you want to do. Yeah. Would you say that do you have to like budget yourself pretty well with this 6 months on, 6 months off kind of stuff? Do you think that back to our conversation about finances, do you think this, puts you in a better position, to manage your money properly?
You do, because you're not getting a regular paycheck, of course, and the income that comes in is so like cyclical throughout the year. It's kind of like being a ski instructor, right? Like they make all their money only for a few months out of the year, unless they have another job, I guess. But so they have to make it last, so to speak, the whole year. But the good thing about what I do is that if you're already an accountant, you already know how to do that. So it's not like it takes any extra effort.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, cool. Yeah, so I mean, back to our conversation about dude bros, you're not going to be a dude bro if you're or a very successful one, if you're an accountant. So, blowing all your money and all that shit. So, that's some good stuff. But, so you think like the way, let me use myself as an example. I mean, I got a 4-year college degree in the liberal arts, I mean, so you think it would be more efficient to do like the EA route as opposed to, the master's route for accounting, even though my degree isn't in business? Do you think that's probably the better way to go?
Well, let me ask you this. Did you take any accounting courses at all? You probably took a couple at least, right? In your business?
I took one.
You just took one.
Yeah.
There's a minimum of, what do the states want? It's usually about 60 hours in accounting, I think. So yeah, you would go, if you want to do what I did, you would just go the EA route. It wouldn't be worth you like going back and taking all those accounting courses, especially if you want to do tax, because unless you're going to do, if you're going to go into other areas of accounting, yeah, you got to go back and get the degree, but you wouldn't need to do that. If you want to do tax, you just go the EA route.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, doing the master's route requires, ungodly amounts of paying for credit hours and stuff in a university. And how much do you think, like from point A to point B, it's going to cost you, like to do this EA route? I mean, I know you mentioned this a couple weeks ago on your most recent stream, but for my audience, what are you looking at, like studying materials and costs to take the exams and everything like that?
It's a great question, and it did come up. I think the guy we were talking to, Parker, Uh, he said something. He was estimating he thought it'd be about $1,500, which is nothing compared to like tuition and
Yeah,
all that
that's a
other crap.
steal. That is absolutely a steal.
If I had to guess, if you can set aside probably a couple $1,000, which is more than worth it to get this, yeah, that's probably all you need. Probably a couple $1,000.
Yeah, that is, I mean, that's a hell of an investment, if I ever heard one. The rate of returns on that is, astronomical, especially given how much money you guys are charging per hour. I mean, the working home remotely. I mean, did you really have an issue like during the transfer over to working from home? Like, did you have to force yourself to actually get work done? Were you easily distracted, or was that really not an issue for you?
Wasn't too bad of an issue. I'd already been working that way anyway, because even when I had my office, I was not getting up at 8 a.m. and, trudging over there and leaving for an hour for lunch and then leaving at 5 p.m. I never did it that way. I just kind of set my own schedule. Some days I went in at noon and worked late. Some days I knocked it out. I went in at 9, left at noon, and didn't go back. There were days I didn't go in there at all, which was why it was good to drop the office. I'm kind of a night owl. I actually do pretty good work late at night. So a lot of times I would just work out or do whatever I wanted to do during the day, and set aside 4 or 5 hours late at night after I watched my sports ball, and then just knocked out a bunch of taxes.
Yeah, yeah. Hell, man. I mean, the more I talk about this, the more I'm like, damn, I really want to get interested in doing this stuff. So, maybe I'll hit you up in an email at some point, thinking about this, because
Sure.
I actually have a family member that works for H&R Block, so and does some tax work for them. So I already kind of have an in there, somebody to help me on the side as well. So,
Sure.
I very well might be looking into that in the near future here, but well, man, I think we pretty much touched on everything. Anything else you want to say to the audience here? Any other final words?
No, I guess I just you guys what I want to see people not feel like, I don't want people to think they have to do this whole get a 4-year undergrad or whatever and then find a cubicle job, get the benefits, just you know what I'm talking about, right? There's just so many other ways to attack this thing that we call life, because I feel like even though I got great work experience and I wouldn't be here where I am without it in my 20s, that was all I did in my 20s, was that get up, commute, cubicle. Like, I had fun and I invested in myself, but man, what a waste of life. So, you don't have to do it. There's other ways of doing it. So that's what I want to leave people with.
Yeah, awesome, man. I mean, it absolutely is the age of the employee. We got more opportunities than our parents did or our grandparents did. Anybody, man. The internet is a gift for us
The
for sure.
internet is amazing, and that's what we got. We're so lucky to have it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, man, cool. I think we'll wrap this up. Thanks for coming on, man. Anything you want to plug?
I've got a channel. It's Chad Elkins CPA. It's got on the screen there. You see my little, bobblehead logo. That's what it's. That's where you'll find it. I'm at elkinscpa.com. That's my website. If you want to shoot me an email, this is also on my channel, but chadelkinscpa@gmail.com if you have questions or anything. I'm usually on Tuesday nights. I usually stream 6 p.m. Central. It's been a little bit more variable lately because I've been traveling, like we went last night on Wednesday. I may do one next Tuesday, Thanksgiving week. I'm going to try to do one at 6 p.m. Tuesday next week. But otherwise, yeah, just keep an eye out for, please, if you'd like to subscribe, and you'll get notifications whenever we're on, and you can ask me any questions.
Yeah, for sure, guys. Definitely go over there and subscribe, and you'll see me in Chad's chat room and stuff during his live streams. It's a fun time. So, all right, cool, man. We'll wrap this up. Take us out, Chad. When should we hang out?
We should hang out soon.
Soon.